Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me and the update team for our first webinar Wednesday of October. Today, we are diving into a session called Unlocking Success with CASAS Updates and Resources. So I'm glad that you are here. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box at any time, and I will try my best to address it during the session. Please note that your microphones are muted, so you are in listen-only mode. And don't worry if you miss anything. Today's presentation is being recorded, and it will be made available on the IPDAY website within the next 48 hours. Let me go ahead and officially introduce myself. I am Dr. Daisy Shaw from Palm Beach County, and I will be your facilitator today. I work as an operations specialist with the School District of Palm Beach County, Department of Adult and Community Education, and I am also a state certified CASAS trainer right here in the state of Florida. And before I get started, I want to take a moment to send my thoughts to everyone who was affected by Hurricane Helene and want our fellow colleagues statewide and beyond to know that we are thinking of you during this time. All right, so now we will go ahead and get started. And we're going to start the presentation with a few questions. And you can utilize the chat box to answer the questions that you see on the screen. Here's question number 1. Out of the 3 choices provided, what is your absolute favorite part of the fall season? So you get to select one of the 3 options. Right. See a lot of B's and C's. Couple A's, okay. You know, based on these responses in the chat box, I think B might have won this round because a lot of you are saying that your favorite part of the fall season is the crisp and cool weather. I don't know about where you guys are, but where I am at, we haven't had that this season, at least not yet. So, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. All right, we're going to move on to our next question. Question number 2, what's your favorite way to enjoy a crisp fall day? So basically you have 3 verbs here. You have sipping, taking, and snuggling, and you get to select one. Do you like sipping on a cozy pumpkin spice latte? Do you like taking hikes? Do you like snuggling up with a good book? This is okay, a lot of A's, B's, and C's this time around. Okay, so if you said B, I am kind of like you. I would love to take a hike on a nice cool day. So that would have been my answer choice for this one. And we are going to go ahead and move on to the next question. And that question is, and for this one, actually, you can select up to 2 answers, all right? So what's your go-to boost for getting through Wednesday? We're in the middle of the week. What's your go-to boost? You can select up to 2 answers. right. So if any of you said the letter D as part of the answer, um, I'm glad you're here getting your PD on right now, because that's what this is all about. All right, let's take a quick look at the latest updates with CASA's goals, and we will begin with a quick knowledge check question. All right, now, as of July 1st, which math assessment have the students transitioned to? So you are going to utilize the chat box and let me know what math assessment are our ABE GED students being pre-tested and post-tested on. See a lot of B's in the chat box. That is certainly good to see. All right, so anyone that said B, Math Goals 2, you are absolutely correct. Math Goals is no longer approved for NRS reporting, and starting July 1st of this year, all CASAS agencies were required to transition to the Math Goals 2 series. And as you see here on the screen, Math Goals 2 is approved by the NRS through 2030. So we're good for the next few years with math at least. So here are some additional reminders on that. All students should now be using the new CASA's Math Goals 2 tests, including students that were once in a GED math course. And that is because students have to establish their math EFLs with the new Math Goals 2 assessment series before they can be placed into a math course. And last but not least, all students need an NRS approved test for placement to be NRS reportable. Okay. Here's another quick question for you. If a continuing GED student's math EFL falls to the ABE level after they take the Math Goals 2 for the first time, under which category should they be reported? So if a continuing GED student who was placed in the GED level math course because of their scores on the Math Goals assessment, now they've taken the Math Goals 2 pre-test for the first time and their score has dropped to the ABE level. Under which category should they be reported? Let me know in the chat box, please. See a lot of C's. That is good to see. So anyone that said C, ABE math, you are absolutely correct. C for correct there. Here's something important to note. If a GED math student takes the Math Goals 2 test and their educational functioning level, which is EFL, drops to the ABE level, they must now be reported under ABE math. Why does this happen? It's simple. The Math Goals 2 test sets a new math level based on the student's performance, so their placement changes to reflect that. Adjust class schedules to ensure students receive instruction at the right level to help them succeed. Be creative with your schedules to best meet the needs of your students. And again, Math Goals 2 is approved by the NRS at least until 2030. So for the math assessment, we are all set for the next 7 years. Reading, on the other hand, that's a different story. So CASA's reading goals is approved by the NRS through next year. Reading Goals assessment series will be sunsetting next year, and the Reading Goals 2 assessment series will be replacing Reading Goals. The new Reading Goals 2 test is already developed, and CASAS should be submitting this test to the NRS for approval soon if they haven't already done so. I believe they were supposed to do it in October. So just keep an eye out for updates on Reading Goals 2. I want to say early next year. Okay. And CASAS is always preparing for what's next and needs your help with field testing. Here's how you can get involved. You would administer the field test to your students, and in return, your students will be participating. CASAS gets the information they need to improve and develop their tests, and your students get a reward. And field testing also gives the students a chance to practice using the testing platform, and that also helps lower their test anxiety. So it's really a win-win situation. Just remember that these test scores from a field test cannot be used for placement or reporting purposes at all. All right, so you cannot report these scores. You cannot use these scores for student placement or measuring learning gains or anything like that. If you are interested in learning more about field testing opportunities, you can go ahead and scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or you can email fieldtesting@casas.org for more details. Again, that email is field, F-I-E-L-D, testing, T-E-S-T-I-N-G, @casas.org. All right, now let's switch gears to the CASAS STEPS assessment series for ESOL. Several CASAS agencies in the state of Florida have already transitioned from the Life and Work series to the CASAS STEPS assessment series for their ESL programs. And if you are one of those, can I just get a quick yay or a yes in the chat box if you're already utilizing the STEPS assessment series? Okay. Yes, Miami-Dade College. All right. Since June. Wow. Okay. Good. Then you should be familiar with some of the information that I'm about to share with you. All right. So if you have, you should already be familiar with these new test levels and forms from the CASA STEP series. The form numbers are the same for both subjects, making them super easy to remember. And the STEP series provides two parallel forms of pre and post tests at each of the 5 test levels. These levels provide necessary placement opportunities to ensure the most accurate diagnostic information to guide English language instruction. All right, so I'm going to be presenting a few scenarios. This happens to be our first scenario. We have a student named Kim. All right, Kim is a continuing student. Her previous EFLs from the Life and Work series were 6 for reading and 5 for listening. But after pre-testing with the new EFLs have dropped. Now her reading EFL is 5 and her listening EFL is 4. The question here is it true or false that you are to report her new lower EFLs? So use the chat box and let me know true or false, please. This scenario is basically asking whether or not you should report Kim's new lower EFLs. All right, so it looks like everyone that participated said true. And true is true. You must report Kim's new EFLs even though they are lower. Let's break it down, right? So students must be placed in courses that match their current EFL based on the most recent assessments, even if their previous scores were higher. The good news is that how students are scheduled into classes is up to each agency. So you can certainly place her however you can certainly, you have to place her using her lower EFLs, but you can schedule her into classes wherever you think she would be most successful. All right, let's look at scenario number 2. Meet Pierre. He's a new student who pre-tested with the CASAS STEPS assessment. And here's what we know about him. He attends class regularly. He uses instructional software every day to learn English. Now for the question, how many hours of instruction does Pierre need to be eligible for post-testing by the end of the term? How many instructional hours do you think he needs before you can go ahead and post-test him? I see a lot of 70s. I saw maybe a couple 40s in the chat box. 40 with consent. All right. Uh-huh. Okay, so to qualify for post-testing, students need to complete the required number of instruction hours according to the Florida Technical Assessment Policy. Now, ideally, students should be post-tested after 70 to 100 hours of instruction. So anyone that says 70 to 100 hours of instruction, you're absolutely right, okay? Students should be post-tested after they have at least 70 hours of instruction. However, a minimum of 40 hours is needed to be eligible for post-testing. And someone said in the chat box something about a consent form. Yes, I believe every district or every agency has their own form that they use. So if you're going to be post-testing a student who only has 40 hours of instruction, you want to make sure you fill out the proper paperwork to support that and file it in the students' folders. Okay. All right, here we have our third scenario. We have a student named Fatima. Go ahead and take a quick look at her pre-test scores and EFLs, and she's already post-tested with the CASA STEPS assessment. So go ahead and look at her post-test scores and EFLs from her post-test. And the question here is, did Fatima make any learning gains? All right, so take a look at her scores and EFLs and tell me in the chat box what you think. Does she make any learning gains here? Yes, I see a lot of yeses. That's good. Uh-huh. See a yes in reading, yes in reading. All right. Yes, yes. The answer is yes. Yes, Fatima made learning gains in reading. So if you look at her pre-test scores, her reading score was 208 and her listening score was 193. 208 in reading is EFL 4 and 193 in listening is EFL 3. She had the 70 hours of instruction. We went ahead and post-tested her. And then her reading score now after post-testing is 218, which is EFL 5. So she moved up a whole level. And for listening, her pre-test score was 193. Her post-test score is 194. So no change here, right? So she's going to remain at EFL 3 for listening. Reading, she did move up a level. So Fatima's hard work paid off in reading, and she earned an MSG in reading. So everyone that said yes, you were right. All right, English Language Proficiency Standards. The acronym there is ELPS. Okay, so if you could just go ahead and let me know in the chat box, have you had the opportunity to either look at the ELPS standards, or have you already started implementing these in your lessons? How familiar are you with the English Language Proficiency Standards is basically what I'm trying to ask. I see a lot of yeses. Okay, so you know what these are. Yes, Jesus, you're right. There are 10. Yes, indeed. Okay. Friday. Okay, good, Scott. That's great. All right, so the new CASAS STEP series now aligns with the updated NRS educational functioning level descriptors, which means it's designed to assess higher order skills, including academic language. What does this mean for your classroom? The English language proficiency standards are focused on the 4 core areas of language acquisition: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Plus, they dive deeper into the linguistic features of English. And I am actually going to move on to the next slide and ask you a question. Someone already answered it in the chat box, but I'm still going to go ahead and ask you this question. And the question is, how many English language proficiency standards are there for adult education? Is it A5, B10, C8, or D6? Lucas, I appreciate your honesty there. All right, so in the chat box, I noticed that a lot of you said B, some of you put in the number 10, right? And if you said 10, you are absolutely right. Dive into this slide here. Here you'll see the 10 English language proficiency standards for adult education, and these are split into 2 groups. So if you look at standards 1 through 7, these standards focus on the language skills ELLs need to actively engage in English language arts, literacy, math, and science. And then if you look towards the bottom where we have standards 8 through 10, these standards emphasize the linguistic skills that support those first 7 standards. So let me break this down with an example, right? So if you look at ELP standard 8, I want everyone to look at ELP standard 8 right now. So this standard here says that an ELL, an English language learner, can figure out the meaning of words and phrases in oral presentations and in both literary and informational texts. So this skill is essential because it supports ELP Standard 1 as well, which focuses on constructing meaning from these same sources, whether it's through listening, reading, or viewing at their specific level. Okay, so if you haven't already, I highly recommend taking some time to read through these standards, and familiarizing yourself with them can really help you design stronger lessons and better prepare your students for success. Okay, so again, there are 10 ELP standards for adult education. All right, so let's explore the ELP standards on this particular slide. We are going to be looking at so there are 10 ELP standards for adult education, and each one comes with 5 proficiency levels. Okay, so these levels break down what students should be able to do for each standard, giving clear examples of how they can practice language skills at different levels. So right here on this particular screen, you're looking at ELP Standard 1. All right, so this is our English Language Proficiency Standard 1, along with the 5 descriptors that show how students progress within this particular standard. Now, let's take a look at the key skills covered in the ELP standards for reading and listening. To help your students succeed on the CASAS test, here's what you should focus on. So for reading, you may want to work on vocabulary, identifying details, understanding the main idea, making inferences, and recognizing point of view and supporting evidence. For listening, focus on vocabulary details and the main idea, just like the reading, but don't forget to add practice with dialogue and summaries for the listening portion. And I have a question for the group here now. How do you currently incorporate these skills into your lesson? Can someone share one strategy in the chat box? Like, how do you incorporate these in your lessons right now? Whether it's using a form or main idea or making inferences. So I'm going to give you a minute or so to utilize the chat box and let me know how you currently use these skills into your lessons. How do you teach vocabulary? How do you teach your students to look for main idea? How do you teach them to make inferences? How about dialogue and summary? So Jesus said, identify the author's purpose in an article for a level 6, for instance. Okay, yeah, that's a great example. Yes, author's purpose. Modeling first. Yes, Marissa, as ESOL instructors, we always want to model first before we give any assignments or activities to our students. I agree with you on that one, 100%. Veronica said, main idea, chunk the reading. Oh, chunking, yes, and have a focus question for each chunk of reading. That's a great idea, Veronica. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Lucas, thank you. Yes, using context clues can help with new vocabulary. Annotate the text. Yep, thank you. So you're all professionals here. You already are doing this, right? So I do want to say thank you to everyone that participated and answered the question in the chat box. I appreciate it. And so just keep in mind, these are the skill and content areas. These are the skills that you should be focusing on. And on the next slide, we are going to be looking at the task areas. So let's explore the task areas on this slide. Task areas are the prompts that students will see during the test, whether they're graphic, written, or oral. Okay, so for reading, students might encounter forms, charts, articles, signs, labels, and diagrams, just to name a few. Okay, just please keep in mind that the CASAS assessment is not just a reading comprehension test, right? Our students need to know how to read all these graphs and charts and pay stubs and schedules and forms and things like that. And for listening, they'll be working with picture prompts, comprehension questions, and next response questions. And understanding these areas as instructors will help you better prepare your students and set them up for success. So go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen to access the English Language Proficiency Standards booklet online. I have also made it easy for you by dropping the link in the chat box. So let me just go ahead and do that. So if you're unable to scan the QR code, if you check the chat box, I have entered the link there. If you go ahead and click on this link, it will direct you to the booklet that is available online. Okay. And again, like I said, I know you're already rock star educators, so take some time to get familiar with these English language proficiency standards. It will help you serve your learners even better. All right, now let's go ahead and look at some other resources that are available for you. Some essential resources, starting with the Florida Assessment Policy, the TA paper. So no matter your role at your agency, it's essential to stay up to date on our state's assessment policy. So go ahead and scan the QR code and it will take you to the DOE's new assessment technical assistance paper for the 2024-25 year. And I am also going to go ahead and drop the link for this in the chat box as soon as I'm able to copy it. So I just put in the link to our DOE's technical assistance paper for the year 2024-2025. Make sure you go ahead and look through this so you're up to date on our state's assessment policies. Okay. Also, on July 22nd of this year, the Department of Education released a memo called the Adult Education Program Implementation Assessment. If this is new to you, no worries. Your administrator should have received this through email, so feel free to check in with them. And you can also scan the QR code to access the memo directly. And let me go ahead and put a link in the chat box for this as well, so you can check it out. So I have added the link to the memo in the chat box. And this memo basically included an FAQ document that addressed several questions from the field. Now let's talk about eTest Online. Can you let me know in the chat box, has something changed with eTest Online recently, maybe this week? Can I get a quick yay or nay in the chat box, please? Just want to make sure you're up to date. Scott says yay. John says eTest too. Ludmila, test too. Yes. Christina, yes. All right, so it looks like a lot of you are already aware of this, but just in case if you're not, as of yesterday, eTest has changed to CASAS eTest 2. So why the change? CASAS has given the interface a fresh redesign, first of all. Second, it's expected to improve performance, flexibility, all right? And CASAS has enhanced accessibility to ensure everyone can participate. So now our students will have the enlarged text option available. which basically means bigger text that is easier to read. Customizable colors. You can now choose your own background and text colors. Screen reader technology, including a new talking calculator to assist your learning. All right, so all of these things took effect yesterday, October 1st. To make sure you're in the right place, you want to check and see that the URL reads eTest2. If you don't see it, or if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out for help. You can contact tech support at CASAS.org for assistance. All right, that is tech support at CASAS.org. All right, training updates and opportunities. Let's look at that. Exciting news! The CASAS trading modules have a fresh new look. You can now find them on CASAS.org in a new tile format. This layout makes it super easy to track your progress. Plus, it measures your progress in each unit as well as your overall course progress. So as you can see on the screen, it not only tracks your progress in each unit, but also your overall course progress on the right side there. Okay. Module 1 is now called Exploring CASAS. Here's what you can expect from this module. You'll get a tour and overview of CASAS, discover how CASAS can assist you and your adult learners, and it will take you about 40 minutes to complete this new Module 1 called Exploring CASAS. And don't worry, there's no need to retake Module 1 if you have taken it before. So if you're already certified, you have already taken Module 1 before. So there's no need for you to retake this. Just know that there have been some updates. Now it's called Exploring CASAS, and it only takes about 40 minutes to complete this. All right. I also want to let you know that Module 3 and the paper proctor module are currently under construction, but the updated versions are on the way and will be available late this fall. So just keep an eye out for that. Module 3 and the paper proctor should be available later this season. All right, let's talk about the teacher portal a little bit. Last time I had told you that Teacher Portal is a user-friendly web-based tool that's easily accessible, right? And here's what it offers, right? So you have access to instructional reports for your classes, detailed demographic information about your students, attendance tracking, and so much more. There's a lot that you can do with Teacher Portal. First of all, if you are not already using it, you want to talk to your administrator and find out what the plan is. And if you haven't used the teacher portal yet, but you want to know what it's all about, be sure to check out the information available on the CASAS website. If you scan this QR code that you see on the screen, it will direct you to the page that has information about the teacher portal. Okay. And did you know that CASAS actually offers live facilitated training? So here are some of the recent topics they have covered in these sessions. There was an overview of TOPS Pro Enterprise, TE, and CASAS Teacher Portal for Teachers. So check out the live facilitated training tab on CASAS.org. So you would go to CASAS.org, scroll down a little bit, and towards the bottom, you're going to see this option that reads live facilitated training. You would click on it and sign up for any upcoming training sessions. CASAS also hosts webinars to share news and updates, and the next one is coming up on October 16th. So please make sure you go ahead and scan that QR code to register for this upcoming webinar and stay in the loop on all the latest and greatest from CASAS. Again, CASA's National News and Updates webinar will be taking place on October 16th. Okay. Here's another great professional development opportunity. The Southeast Regional ACE Conference is happening next week in Port Charlotte. Both CASAS and IPDE will be offering sessions at the conference. So if you're attending, make sure to check them out. I see Scott's going to be there. All right. So we're almost approaching the end of the presentation. Let me share the contact information before we end the session, right? So CASAS offers office hours just for you. This is a great opportunity to see all the features and resources available in CASAS. So join CASAS with your questions and you'll receive one-on-one support, helpful suggestions, and plenty of encouragement as you use CASAS assessments and software. The best part, you'll drive the session. Okay, you'll drive the session content with your questions and needs. So that's all about CASA's office hours. Now, the QR code that you see on this particular screen, it will direct you to the CASA's contact page where you can find the detailed information on many ways you can reach out to CASA's, including their amazing tech support team. So take a screenshot of this or use that QR code and save the URL on your phone for CASA's. And get social with CASA's. Be sure to check out CASA's on different social media platforms, like and follow them on Facebook, LinkedIn, and be sure to check out their YouTube channel where they post essential videos. Okay. And at this time, let's take a moment for a quick poll. Your feedback is important to IPDE and will help us improve our services for you. So please share your thoughts on today's webinar. And while you're doing that, I wanted to make you aware of another webinar that is taking place later this month. Please be sure to join IPDE on October 23rd for another wonderful webinar. The title of this upcoming webinar is Planning for Adult Instruction with Universal Design for Learning, that is UDL. So be sure to register and add that to your calendar. And I also want to say thank you for spending an hour of your afternoon with me. I truly appreciate it. If you are attending the ACE conference next week, I hope to see you there. Wishing everyone a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.